Okay, good morning, everybody. This is the What's New evidence update. Thank you for joining us this morning. I am recording it. We've had a number of people sign up, but unfortunately aren't able to attend today. But after this session as well, we will send out the recording and the slides to everybody, so you've got access to that to look at after. I hope you've had a good start to the academic year, and we'll get started. So the agenda for this morning then, we're going to start off with a little introduction on who Staffordshire Research School are for anyone who isn't aware. We're then going to look at some new research findings that have been published very recently. We'll look at some new resources that are available from the EEF to utilise within schools. We'll also look at some opportunities we've got for CPD coming up at Staffordshire, but also from the wider research school network as well. And obviously with everything we do, it's just hopefully that you'll see something that's interesting and important to you, but also please, do share that with any colleagues in your school or in your local networks who you think would benefit from knowing about this research or opportunities. So who are we then? So my name's Nikki Arkinstall. I'm the director of Staffordshire Research School, and I've also been a school leader for a very long time now. But in terms of the EEF, we do three things. So we generate that research, and we do that through trials where half the schools will carry out the strategy, half won't, and we'll look at the difference in that. So really high quality generation of research. We also, second branch is we synthesize that research. So we look at our own research and also lots of other external research, and we put that into hopefully palatable documents for busy school leaders to read. We've got the Teaching and Learning Toolkit, which really does tell you how many months progress a child will make if they carry out that strategy, how much it will cost, and what the evidence strength is. And that's really good for showing you what are those best bets, what are those strategies that could make a difference if they're implemented well, but also what to avoid. Because obviously if it says that it's going to, when implemented well, make negative progress for that pupil, hopefully you will think, well, actually, let's not do that if, we're not going to put our energies into that if actually it's going to be detrimental for our pupils. So it might tell you the ineffective strategies to maybe stop doing. We also have the Early Years Toolkit, an evidence store, which is full of lots and lots of videos and really good evidence and research and strategies to use in early years. And obviously lots and lots of guidance reports on a range of topics from literacy, maths, science, parental engagement, implementation, feedback, CPD, lots and lots of really good documents that give you clear recommendations from the research. And then where the research schools come in is the mobilisation arm of the EEF. So we know that just creating research and creating these documents, this synthesis, isn't going to make behaviour change in classrooms. So as research schools, we work with schools, we work with school leaders, and we actually show how that research can be applied within the classroom through sessions like this, through programmes, through partnerships, and through exemplification, through videos. And we really support school leaders to know how they can apply that research within their settings. So in the core team, Nathan Morland is our strategic link, and he's the Teaching School Hub Director. I've also got Stacey Jordan, and Carly is our admin. We're our central team, but then we have a number of evidence leads, and they are from a range of schools, a range of settings, and they all have a certain expertise. So you may have heard of Jade Pierce, who's an author of lots of books, who also works at a MAT level. We've got Pam, social emotional learning. We've got Amy Husband, who's fantastic with behaviour and SEND. Hannah Hall, behaviour. So lots and lots of brilliant people who work with us to provide that support to schools. We do lots of exemplification. So we've got a YouTube channel with lots of videos on. We've got our website with lots of articles and blogs on. And we also have a podcast. We also have a TikTok channel. So try and get, to lead to school teachers and leaders where we can, but it's worth checking those out. The latest podcast we did was with Amabir, and he wrote a fantastic book about the student toolbox and effective strategies, and he discusses those in the podcast. So let's go on to research findings then from around different areas. So the first one I wanted to flag up was the Oracy Commission. That came out the last few days, well, in October 2024. And this was a report that the Oracy Education Commission had done over the summer, over June, July, August, and September, and then they've published this report in October. And it's a fascinating read, and I'll just let you read through there what the main findings are in terms of their research. So it's called We Need to Talk, and it's this report. So they're very much suggesting that Oracy needs to be the fourth R in education, and it needs to have that equal status with reading, writing, and math. What they're really calling for is an increased emphasis on Oracy education to better prepare all young peoples to become fulfilled future citizens, and increase this polarisation between disadvantaged and non-disadvantaged pupils. But I think really it's talking about that recognition of Oracy as a building block for reading, writing, and the academic progress through school. And I think, you know, if a child can't say it, then there's no way they're going to be able to read it, and they're certainly not going to be able to write it. So it really is that foundational skill that we need to be ensuring all pupils are getting an opportunity to develop. And also interesting that they're looking at how that relates to the AI labour market they're going into. Again, the need to have really fantastic Oracy to be able to access that. So 4 of the things that they're asking for is that integrate speaking, listening and communication into every subject across the curriculum, as well as extracurricular activities. So I think with things like this in reports, it's thinking about, okay, so what does this mean for our school and our setting? So, you know, is Oracy a priority in your school? Is it seen as important? And do you integrate speaking, listening, communication into every subject? Or are there further opportunities where you could enhance that? Also, they're looking for incentives for schools to provide a broad curriculum, enabling children to access the value of expressive arts and citizenship as context for Oracy. And also to make Oracy a key part of training and development for all teachers. So in the early career framework, in MPQs, in any sort of central training that Oracy is at the forefront. So some really good recommendations there, and it's again another one just to watch, to look at where this goes in terms of, does it look at how it influences government decisions, especially with the curriculum review that they're doing at the moment. But that document is worth having a look at, and that summary and the link is on there when you do get the slides. So the next one is, if you are interested in that, we've got the Great Heights English Hub and the Research School are doing a session all about that. So they are going to unpick that commission report and look at it in more detail. So that's on Wednesday, the 6th of November. It's just a twilight after school, and that's a free session. So again, anybody you think would be interested in attending that, then that's there, and they'll be digging much deeper into the report and what it means to schools. I'll just put this one in here because I just found it fascinating. The Sutton Trust published this evidence this week. And just obviously my school's based in Birmingham. I live in Birmingham. So it's just interesting to see that when we're looking at accents in Britain, they've done a hierarchy of prestige rankings. And Birmingham has come out as the lowest prestigious accent, which isn't a surprise really, and coming from Birmingham, I can get where they're coming from a little bit. But really, these accents has been entrenched in Britain for centuries in terms of this prestigiousness. But the research finds that this still remains today. So really recent research, we found that accents associated with industrial cities and ethnic minority accents are considered the least prestigious. I don't really know what impact that has for schools. I know there was a school in Dudley that did try and stop their pupils from speaking in their local accent, and obviously that didn't go down too well. But I think it's just important in terms of thinking about, you know, what we can do for our pupils to support them, but also particularly like with proper English when they're trying to write in grammatically correct terms, and when they're trying to learn phonics and sounds and things. I suppose it's just having an awareness of what role accents can play in that. and ensuring we're supporting children to still get, you know, proper grammar and things like that. That was just one that I found that I thought, oh, that's quite interesting. We still looked at lowly in Birmingham. So there was another report here that was produced by the Department for Education. It came out at the end of September, and that was looking at the working lives of teachers and leaders. And this was a Wave 2 report that came out at the end of September. And I just flagged, I mean, it is quite an interesting report to read, and there's a variety of different things that they looked at, elements. I've just picked out 2 here for today. But in terms of looking at the reasons why teachers leave the profession, and the biggest factor that comes out as 80% important is that high workload. So again, it's just thinking about in our organisations, what are we doing to try and combat that and try and retain these fantastic colleagues that we've got. And I know there's a big push on workload at the moment. Obviously, the government have brought in being able to do PPA from home and things like that. But it's just thinking about what can we do in our schools to try and reduce some of these elements that are pushing people out of the profession. The second one is stress or poor well-being, teachers not being viewed by policymakers. So in terms of government, but also as leaders, how are you getting the views of your colleagues so they feel like they're part of what's happening, part of solutions, rather than it being done to them? Because again, and that's one of the behaviours that really does help effective implementation change in terms of engaging colleagues. And again, you know, if people feel like they're doing it with them and they've got a bit of autonomy and a bit of control of what's going on in their career, then it may help them to stay. So another one to sort of flag that up. Other pressures relating to people outcomes and inspections, hopefully that will reduce after September in terms of the big listen and the changes that are happening to Ofsted. But I suppose that will be one to see if that percentage does go down. But yeah, just really, you know, and then that lack of support from superiors. So again, what support mechanisms have we got in our school to support colleagues? And then on the right-hand side, this graph here just shows whether they agreed, neither agreed or disagreed. It was nice to see actually that feeling valued by their school, you know, was quite high. It was much higher than the disagree. But where you see that disagree ones, the highest, is teachers are valued by policymakers like the government, the teaching profession being valued in society, and the school inspection regime provides a fair assessment of school performance. And again, you know, some of that isn't in our control in terms of, you know, how the government are seeing people, how we're viewed in society, and the inspections. But let's hope with the new government and with the new inspection framework, again, let's hope that those red bars go down and the blue and green start to go up. You know, time will tell. But again, that's another one to look at, just and look through the lens of your own school and think, well, what does that look like in my school? With the teachers in my school, how would they answer those questions? And what would they say are the reasons why they are staying in my school, and what can I do to enhance that? Another research that's came out is from the Speakers for School. So this one, you know, you have to have a bit of a red flag for it in terms of the biased nature of this research, in terms of the company that commissioned it are actually an organisation that puts speakers and aspirational people and careers work within schools. So we have to, you know, have a little bit and think, is there a bit of bias here? But also it's still worth looking at, because it's looking at, does this relate in my school? But what this research looked at was the assumed knowledge and that hidden barrier to social mobility. So when we're looking at our less economic disadvantaged pupils, what they found was that where you're born and who you are born to can play a pivotal role in determining your life chances in this country. So the evidence showed that young people from more privileged backgrounds and those with graduate parents appear more confident and adept at navigating their way through the education system into careers, which, you know, again, reflecting on your own school, does that look the same? Are the children who are disadvantaged not going on to that higher education and into those careers that, you know, those higher careers? And the reason why the report found this is they found a significant difference between socioeconomic groups in the ability to make informed choices at key transition points in education, And if you look at the full report, it gives you a detailed, more breakdown of the percentages and what they found in these different areas. But again, I suppose it makes sense that if your parents can inform you, talk to you and help you, or your network, your family network, about what to do at each key transition point, I suppose it knocks on that would have that impact or effect. Knowledge of how to set and achieve career goals, knowledge of how to identify and apply for jobs successfully, and knowledge of how to integrate into workplace culture and develop professionally. So those are the areas they looked at. And again, they came up with 4 recommendations. So they looked around guaranteed work experience to give people that opportunity to actually go into the world of work and see what that's like through work experience. Having a careers advisor, effective career advice in school, so that if they're not getting that from their home life or their home networks, that gap is being filled in school. So they're giving them that information about those transition points, about careers, about jobs, mentoring programs, and also that inspiring young people. So again, like I say, I think that's what they do, is their role, come into schools and inspire and things. So we've got to have a little bit of bias there, but it's still worth thinking about in your school. Are those opportunities there for children to really support them with those transitions and with getting jobs to stop that disadvantage gap growing in this area? This is a new website that's been launched in September. And I think this really does tie in with attendance and behaviour. I know a lot of schools nationally are looking at how we can improve attendance, how we can improve behaviour. And when you look at the research around that, a lot of it looks at, do the children feel that they belong in the setting? Do they feel that sense of belonging that makes them want to come to the school in the first place? But then also when they're there, are they behaving? Have they got those learning behaviours? And again, if children feel they belong, then that's what is going to encourage them to have those effective learning behaviours. So this website's called buildingbelonging.org. Some really nice videos on there of experts from a range of fields like psychology and things, looking at the research and science behind human belonging and how we can encourage that in schools. So there's lots of resources on there to support teachers to understand the science and research behind belonging and how they can build it in their classroom. So there is research on there. There's lots of research documents, there's videos, and there are some sort of lesson plans and lesson ideas and ideas you can actually do in schools to get this sense of belonging. And I think sometimes when you go to this training on attendance, on behaviour, and they talk about belonging and getting that sense of belonging for children, sometimes we don't actually tell people how, what should we do. So hopefully this website gives a bit more research behind that. And some of the good ideas there. So that's one to have a look at if that's something you're trying to work on in your schools at the moment. And I always flag this one up if you don't already subscribe to this. So Peps McRae is a fantastic author and educator. Every week on a Thursday, he drops an email into your email if you subscribe to his evidence snacks. And that is sort of just lots of drip feeding, lots of different research, but how it can be applied in as a leader in a school or as a teacher in a school. So again, it's free to subscribe, but I really like his visuals that really clearly show what that research can look like and really explains it in a really palatable way. So again, that's another one to sign up to if you're interested in research. Okay, so new EF resources that are out. So this is this section now. So obviously it is the time of year where schools are planning their pupil premium strategies. So we have got the EF Guide to Pupil Premium. It has been updated recently and there's just a few tweaks and changes to that. But again, this is a document to please flag up to anybody who is in the process of writing the pupil premium strategies. And what it does is it gives you that 5-point plan to sustain an effective pupil premium strategy. So it goes through the 5 steps in order to do that. Okay, so it looks at how you can diagnose pupils' needs, so you know what those priorities should be for your strategy, helps you use that evidence to support your strategy, helps you to develop your strategy, deliver and monitor your strategy, and evaluate and sustain that strategy as well. Here are the changes that's gone on. So in that 4th step now, it used to be implement your strategy, but it's now deliver and monitor your strategy. And I think it's looking more at aligned to the new EEF implementation guidance report. So they've sort of moved it into those phases. So it's about, obviously, when you're diagnosing your pupils' needs, using evidence for strategy and developing, that's that explore phase. When you go to step 4, when you're delivering and monitoring your strategy, it's that monitoring part that's important to make sure you're keeping that implementation on track. And then number 5 used to be monitor the strategy, but it's now evaluate and sustain. So it's how do you keep that momentum going with the strategy that you're putting in place for your pupil premium pupils. So it's just more aligned to the new implementation guidance report. Within that, it's got some really useful resources, further resources, as well as the guidance. And it really does break down each of the tiers of how to spend your money. And it looks at the evidence brief for each one and how you can make those really evidence-informed decisions for each of the tiers of the strategy. So for the example here, so for high quality teaching, it then gives you that evidence brief around helping you to support you with that evidence. And obviously, when you are looking at evidence for your pupil premium reports, there are some really good tools for you to use. So all the guidance reports that the EEF have produced give you that really practical evidence based on a range of topics such as literacy, math, science, feedback, and also utilising the EEF toolkit to help you identify those effective evidence-informed strategies to use. There's also the Great Teaching Toolkit. It's got a really good resource on what high quality teaching looks like and what are those elements, but also the cognitive science approaches. And it's got a range of other things in there as well. This was just a few that I picked out. But just a reminder that in the tiered approach, the bulk of your money should be spent on that high quality first teaching, because that's what research shows makes that biggest impact for our pupils in our schools. And it's okay, break that myth that it's okay that, you spend that money on professional development, on improving teachers. It doesn't have to be specifically for each child. And actually, obviously, improving a teacher and giving them high quality professional development is not just going to have an impact for pupil premium, but all pupils in your school. And that's absolutely fine to do. But in terms of high quality teaching, if that's the key area you're looking at, it's important to think about, is there a shared and consistent understanding across the schools, across your school, of what high quality teaching looks like? Is it ordinary available before the support is provided? And is it in place and consistently in place across the classroom? Do all of your colleagues do that? So teachers, TAs, everyone who's working and impacting with the pupil, do they understand those elements of what high quality teaching looks like in your organisation? And then, like I said, so for each of the tiers, it's got some really good definitions of the research and what strategies can be used. There's a nice booklet here that can help with that targeted interventions in primary schools. It's got some really nice resources and ideas there. And then it's got the same for wider strategies, the evidence-informed approaches you can use. And then the additional resources, there's some really nice discussion prompts for governors and trustees in supporting effective strategy. And they're really useful for governors. And we are putting on some sessions for governors on the pupil premium strategy that I'll talk about at the end as well, if that's something that would be useful to the governors in your school. But the key takeaways from that is that pupil premium is one of the most important tools we have to address that widening of the socio-economic disadvantage gap in England and make sure that all pupils, whatever their background, can flourish. And obviously, we've updated that suite of resources, but we've also produced something called promising programmes. And this can also help when you're looking for an intervention, an effective intervention that can support pupils in your school. So it's a really useful section of the EEF website, the promising programmes, because when you're considering how to embed evidence into your school, you might consider those evidence-based approaches, such as feedback, phonics, metacognition, which always come out as high on the toolkit. But the guidance on best practice in education. But alongside these approaches, you might also need to identify those programmes to support that and targeted academic support. So what they've done is put together programmes that we've tested that have shown really promising results on pupil attainment, and update it to make sure they're still enrolling, they're still active, so that you've got an opportunity to see that. So, for example, in early years, There's a few there. So there's Maths Champions, the Nuffield Early Intervention, the Reception Jigsaw, and it gives you more details when you click into that. And if that aligns with your priority or the intervention you're trying to find, it's a really useful resource to see what are those promising programs that are really research rich. Then it gives you primary programs. There's more than, I think there's about 9 in the primary one, but it's things like dialogical teaching, reciprocal reading, focus for TAPS, for science can really support with that. And then for secondary, it's things like embedding formative assessment, maths mastery. So, you know, it really just steer you to what are those promising programs you can do. Also new from the Research School Network is there's now a section on our website, which is clips from the classroom. And these are really high quality videos where the teacher narrates how they're using the recommendations from the guidance reports in their classroom, and you actually see it in practice. We've done one on maths and how to use metacognition in maths. But there's a number of different areas, and it's being added to regularly. So again, it's really useful for professional development. It's really useful to use when you're working with colleagues to see what that research can look like in the classrooms. There's also some new guidance for early years. There's 2 new ones. So supporting children's mental health and wellbeing. Again, we know that's a priority for a lot of schools. So there's a new resource there. And also improving early education through high quality interactions. And again, this builds on the Shrek approach and gives you scaffolding and more details about how you can support that Shrek approach for communication and language in the early years. So there's the resource for supporting children's mental health and wellbeing, and then there's one on self-regulation and executive functioning, and then this is another one that goes along with the Shrek approach, but it's the STAIRS approach, and this is how we can scaffold and really support alongside the Shrek approach to really get that high quality communication language in our early years. And then always flag up this one. So it's that School's Guide to Implementation. If you haven't seen it yet, it was updated in May. We have created a Padlet with lots and lots of resources on there for you. Obviously, it's now got those 3 recommendations. I'm not going to talk about them at the moment, but we are doing, again, some more implementation sessions this year, but we're going to drill down into each of the 3 recommendations in more depth. So on the 27th of November, we're going to really drill down into adopting behaviours that drive effective implementation. It's just Twilight. 5th of February is we're going to drill down into recommendation 2, and 11th of June recommendation 3. But again, if you haven't read that guidance report, please do have a look at it. And if you flag these sessions up to anyone who you feel be interested. So in terms of the opportunities we've got coming up this year, then we've got some bite-sized explanation video series. So Jade Pierce, one of our ELEs, has recorded some videos of evidence-informed strategies. So she is, if you sign up and subscribe to these, it's free to subscribe to, but every half term, you'll get an email with a video into your inbox. And there, so for example, this autumn term 1 will be retrieval practice. That this is going to be coming out next week. Then it's interleaving cognitive load theory. So again, if you know anyone that would be interested in that, so teaching and learning leads or teachers, then please do show them how to subscribe to that. We have been on the Leaders podcast, myself and Stacey, talking about how to lead change effectively. That's coming out in the next few weeks, so it's something to look out for. And we're also doing a Teach Meet next Wednesday for subject leads, and looking at the implementation guidance through the lens of if you're a subject leader, how can subject leaders in schools support them with, how can that guidance support them to lead change in their subject? And again, that's a free session. Obviously, you're here today on the What's New Evidence briefings. The next one is the 6th of December. Again, please flag these up to anyone you think may find these useful. We're also doing those governor twilights on effective pupil premium and how to support schools with their disadvantaged pupils. So we've got 3 twilights, 1 each term for governors. So again, please do share that with governors if they would be interested in that. We're also, we did the National Research Ed in September. We're doing Research Ed Primary. This is a new Research Ed for this year, and it is just going to be focusing on primary colleagues. That's on the 23rd of November. The link to book is there. But we have got 1 free ticket. So if anybody does want to go, I think it is down south. So But if anyone does want that free ticket, then please do message us or email us, and we'd be happy to give that to you to be able to go for free. And then I've just pulled together, like I always try to, all those free opportunities for professional development from across the Research School network. So I'm not going to go into big detail here. I'm just going to quickly signpost you to them. And then obviously when you get the slides, please share them with anyone that might want to go to these opportunities. So the Great North Early Years Hub, they're doing a number of sessions on oracy, early years and vocabulary. I think they've gone, but the next one they're doing is Shrek. So if you're not aware of the Shrek approach, or you think your early years staff may don't know about the Shrek approach, which is a really effective strategy for communication in early years, then that might be something they want to sign up to on the 14th of November. We've got Shotton Hall. They're doing a number of free twilights, like cognitive science in October next week, reading fluency. They've also got motivation. They've got memory, and it's rolling learning. So again, they're all free to sign up to, and I've got the links on there. They're also doing how to use research, adaptive teaching, which again, we know a lot of schools are working on at the moment, and leading targeted reading interventions in schools. So again, please flag that up to the people who's relevant. Attendance, a number of research schools are doing sessions on this. And Exchange Research School are doing a twilight on improving attendance. And that's on the 2nd of December. And that's again free to attend. And then we've also got understanding the brain and self and co-regulation in early years. That's next week on Tuesday. And then Blackpool Research School, they're also doing a session on attendance and how to build an attendance strategy. And that's taking place on the 16th of October. And then they've got in developing your pupil premium strategy as well. That's coming up in November. Billsley Research School are doing a spotlight on SEND. So they're doing 3 free sessions. And again, we know that SEND nationally is something that all schools are trying to work on because of the increased need. So again, session 1 is about adaptive practices in mainstream classrooms for children with complex needs. So how do we cater for these children now that we're finding in our mainstream schools with complex needs? They've got early communication, interaction and curriculum. And again, they're all free to sign up to. St Matthew's Research School, they're doing a reading webinar focused on recommendations 2 and 3 from the Key Stage 2 literacy report. But I think, again, this will be useful for Key Stage 3 colleagues as well, who are finding that children who are coming into Key Stage 3 have got lower literacy than they used to. And this is taking place on the 3rd of February, and that's a twilight session. There's also East London are doing some head teacher briefings for early years. So if you have got an early years within your school, then these briefings are really going to be looking at the lens of latest research in early years. And they also do their Wednesday webinars, and they've got one on high quality talk in maths and a really good strategy called Told that they'll talk you through on the 20th of November. And again, they've got these head teacher briefings. The next one is the 27th of November. Ofsted are doing a new webinar on the 23rd of October, and that's going to look at their research about what inspections tell them about reception and Key Stage 1. And they're going to be focusing on gaining the knowledge and skills in reception Key Stage 1 that prepares pupils for Key Stage 2. So really looking at those strong foundations in the first years of school and what their research is telling them. So that's taking place on Wednesday, the 23rd of October. Obviously, there's a big curriculum and assessment review taking place at the moment. They are doing a roadshow, so they're going to venues all across the country, and they want to hear from school leaders, school teachers, anybody who's got an interest in the curriculum and got some views on what they think is positive about the curriculum or what needs adapting about the curriculum. So they're doing these roadshows all across the country, but they've also got a virtual session as well. So if that's something you're interested in and want to shape the curriculum and the way they're looking at the curriculum, then that's something to sign up to. Again, the link is there when you get the slides. And also to flag up to look at your English hubs, because I know that they've got a lot of events coming on the autumn term. If you've got a local English hub, a lot of face-to-face free training, but also twilights. I just picked out this one as an example. So Again, a lot of schools are looking at writing at the moment. So this is a series of twilights that will look at effective writing. And obviously it's one of the most cognitive demanding tasks. And so it's how strategies to help pupils overcome these challenges. And again, they're all free. And these are all virtual twilights about how we can ensure high quality writing teaching is going on. But like I say, really worth looking at your English hubs, because they do have funding where they can give money to schools to purchase phonic resources as well as the free sessions they run. There's also some videos from different research schools that they're releasing. So this one is about how we actually evaluate when we do inset days or training or professional development. How can we monitor the impact of that? So that's quite a useful video to watch if you're looking at how to evaluate professional development within your schools or settings. And then Norfolk Research School have got a session where the recording is available about making best use of teaching assistant guidance report. There is going to be a new teaching assistant guidance report coming out in the spring, so that's again something to look out for and watch out for. So also there's some trials that you can sign up to. Again, look at your postcode on the website to see if there's any trials, and sign up to our newsletter. But thank you so much for coming this morning. I do hope you found that useful, and we will be sending out the slides and recording after. But we hope you have a great day, and thank you for joining us. Thank you. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a lovely day. Just going to stop the recording.